All right, we're going to talk about Tyler Perry and Kevin Durant. I'm Chad Sanders at Chadsand on Instagram. You know me for a bunch of reasons. Here we go. So let's start with Tyler Perry. Why Tyler Perry? First of all, because there is a 4-hour documentary on Tyler Perry by FDA Signifier, who is a very thorough and widely followed, subscribed YouTuber who breaks down over 4 hours on this documentary dropped yesterday the ins and outs of how Tyler Perry came to power, and moreover, within the context of black media and the black Hollywood industry within the last, let's call it 50, 60 years. Okay. And there are a lot of obvious and stale things to say about Tyler Perry, right? Things that have been covered ad nauseum, covered to the point of ridiculousness, including how he came to power, how he makes his money, whether or not he is exploitative, both of his consumers, his audience, and of the people who make his projects. There's a doggy. We stay on this side of the road. People have covered, to a ridiculous amount, whether or not him dressing up as a woman is bad for him or bad for us, bad for black people, bad for black men, bad for black culture, et cetera, et cetera. And so I am not here to adjudicate those points because I think they have been covered extensively, exhaustively to a point where they're not interesting. Here's the one that is interesting, which is that I think Tyler Perry is for every single creatively and entrepreneurially minded person, especially black people. He is, and I mean this not in a satanic way, he is the little devil that sits on your shoulder every time you make a creative decision, because he is the person who I think represents the decision you have to make every time you sit down at the computer, every time you stand on a stage, every time you stand in front of a camera, which is this: am I going to speak on and speak to the thing that matters the most to me, that is most inspiring, that feels most nuanced and creative and truly and true and honest to who I am to my audience? Or am I going to feed them McDonald's because I know that they'll give me money for that? And by the way, I would add, I'm choosing the latter of those two choices. I am choosing Tyler Perry at this exact moment because, as I thought about what to say on this video, I was like, man, should I share something about the nuances of writing a vertical series, which is, something that's very inspiring to me and something that I'm spending a lot of time on? Or should I do what I know will get me closer to the 1,000 subscribers that I need on YouTube so I can start monetizing this channel? And of course I chose the latter, and I can go into all of my specific reasons, right? I'm in a relationship. We're trying to make, big kind of life choices, including moving into a new place, and it's X, Y, and Z, that's going to cost money, and then money down the line. And I live in New York City. It's expensive to live here, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But it's the same paradigm. It's the same framework of choices that everybody has to make, especially in this country where you got to have money for safety. You got to have money for mental health. You got to have money for a lot of reasons. And so every day, as I approached my work, right, I came into this like so many other people, even if I'm being so honest, I don't believe that almost anybody comes to this work, anybody that actually makes it anywhere in Hollywood, in this business. I don't think anybody comes to it purely. I don't think anybody truly comes to it for the reasons that they say they do to themselves and others when they start, which are expression. And I want to, I want to share with people. I want to connect with people. I'm a storyteller. People love that one, right? I think almost all of us tucked away in the back have ambitions to be powerful, to be wealthy, to be able to get other creative people to do for us the things that we don't feel like doing ourselves. And so those of us who get somewhere in this thing, right? And I'm in the in-between, you know what I mean? I'm not like, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not like, I wouldn't call myself somebody who's in the like 1% of the 1% of the business, but the people who even get to this phase, this adolescent phase stage that I'm in within it, we are the ones who are still straddling. We are letting the Tyler Perry mode and model come in to an extent, right? You see me every day trying to capture and then capitalize on my leverage connection to an audience. That's the Tyler Perry model, right? Find people who are underserved by media and entertainment, serve them first with my creativity, and then do trades with them where I get their money for the stuff that I offer them. You see me trying to do that every single day. So I am taking a page out, right? I am trying to get more than I put in. That's capitalizing. That's what Tyler Perry has done all the way to the nth degree. But I'm hedging, you know? I'm still trying to hold on to some. I haven't totally and entirely put on the dress, so to speak, right? And I don't mean that in a phobic way of any kind. I mean, like, if that's like sort of the shorthand for the choices Tyler Perry has made to lean all the way into valuing the trade he's making with his audience, right? Product at a low cost to him, over and over and over again at volume, all the way to billionaire status. Like, I'm hedging. Most of us are hedging. And most of us know in the back of our minds that we're hedging, which is why even when we stress and we ask people what we need to do and how we should move forward and what's going to help us escalate to the next rung in our careers, in the back of our minds, when we get their advice, right, which is more volume, more customers, more audience at a higher price to them, not to us, we already know it. But we're trying to ignore the Tyler Perry on the shoulder because we want to believe so bad. This is what I think. This is what I feel often, that we're still like pure artists or something, even though we never were. All right, let's talk about Kevin Durant. Because he's in the news, because he got caught with another burner account, this time during the All-Star game. This happened maybe a day before or something, and it started off about more serious matters, but then as like the burner account was explored, it came to be so that Kevin Durant has been saying more mean things about his teammates, and in years past has been doing it as well, which we already know is something Kevin Durant does. And again, I want to try to avoid the boring and stale points that have already been made here and just get to the one that I think we can all relate to, which is, and I know writers feel this all the time, this is where writing comes from sometimes, is that, boy, do you feel annoyed and overwhelmed often by the world that you live in and the people around you, and there is almost no time and place where it is socially acceptable to express that annoyance. And so I think Kevin Durant has sort of a writer's brain trapped inside a like a super successful, bordering on billionaires mindset, right? Like, or body. And so he's got this pressure that's squeezing him. There's this contrast, which is like, I know what I'm supposed to say in front of cameras to be publicly acceptable. I know what I'm allowed to say, which I often ask people when they're got writer's block. I'm like, what's something that you feel strongly and feel like you are unallowed to say? That's the question where a lot of good writing comes from. I think Kevin Durant is living with that feeling all the time because he is a virtuoso at what he does. He's better at what he does than almost anybody who has ever lived is at anything. And so he is stuck, right? He has never had a coworker as good at what they do as he is at what he does, with maybe the exception of Steph Curry, right? And of all the probably, I don't know, Kevin Durant's probably had 120 teammates at this point. None of them have been as good at what they do as he is at what he does. And I would say this as someone who is very talented at something or a couple things, right? I'm not saying I'm of Kevin Durant's status in what I do, but many people relate to this. It can be exhausting being really, 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 really good at something which you believe to be your job or your purpose, and to not be surrounded by people who are also exceptional at what they do. And I would say, like, my career's journey, like like the growth area of my journey in the last few years has been very consumed by trying to find people to surround myself with who are as good at what they do as I am at what I do, so that I can actually do what I do. But a basketball player doesn't have that privilege. Kevin Durant doesn't get to, not in the way, I know we can make jokes like, oh yeah, player empowerment, blah, blah, blah. But like, Kevin Durant can't just say, you know what? This person's not working for me at point guard. I'm just going to go sign another point guard. I'm going to go put up a job listing for another point guard. It doesn't really work like that. And so I'm not defending him from what some people would call cowardly behavior, which is talking about your teammates under a pseudonym on the internet. But what I will say is I think we can all relate to the frustration.